Welcome into Weather Wednesday here at New England Storm Center. So there is some seriously scorching heat on the way to New England for the rest of this week, Thursday and Friday in particular, especially for southern New England, where a heat advisory has been posted. There was some questions as to whether the National Weather Service of Boston was going to go with a heat advisory or a potentially an excessive heat watch. And what's expected is really right on the border between those two alerts. A heat advisory is issued when heat index values are expected to be between 95 and 99 degrees for at least 2 consecutive days, or 99 to 104 for any amount of time. And an excessive heat warning is issued when uh, heat index values are expected to be 105 or warmer for any amount of time. And as of right now, it does look like Thursday and Friday, particularly Friday for southern New England, heat index values will top out at 103 to 104. So, it's right on that line, just a degree or two off. But that is into a high end heat advisory. So that is what the National Weather Service opted to go with. Of course, when we get this hot in New England, where you say, if it's going to be 104, what's stopping it from going to 105 or 106? But when we get this hot in New England, and again, we're talking about heat index values here, not the air temperature. The air temperatures will be in the low to mid 90s. But when you get into heat index values this high in New England, getting even one more degree, like going from 103 to 104 or 104 to 105, just that 1 degree jump is very, very difficult. Once we get this hot in New England, it becomes very difficult to jump even one more degree, as this is just about as hot as New England gets, again in the feels like department. Northern New England won't be getting as hot as southern New England. There is going to be a bit of a contrast between northern and southern New England, but there will likely be heat advisories posted for portions of northern New England, especially for Friday. Again, the heat is going to peak on Friday, especially as Thursday is starting to look like it's going to be a thunderstorm day for New England, another thunderstorm day for New England. We'll talk about that in a moment. The heat will continue for southern New England into Saturday. Saturday is going to act as the transition day between the hot, humid weather and cooler, drier, and much, much less humid weather. Of course, that transition always comes with the unsettled weather. Saturday is likely going to be an active thunderstorm day as a cold front drops through and knocks out this heat, as it often does in New England in the summer. After the passage of the front, it is going to be, like I said, much, much lower dew points and cooler temperatures as well. The dew point levels will drop to levels that haven't really been seen since the very beginning of summer. Some The dew point levels may drop into the 40s in places in northern New England. It will drop to the 50s for pretty much the rest of the region. There could still be some low 60s out there in spots of southern New England, but much, much lower dew points, less humidity, and cooler weather will feel very refreshing, especially after the heat that we get from now through Saturday for most. Especially the overnight lows, which this summer has featured some really mild overnight lows, and again that will continue with parts of southern New England on Thursday night and Friday night may only drop into the mid 70s. So very mild overnight lows. There will likely be widespread lows in the 50s after the passage of this front. Again, that will feel very refreshing. And it looks like there will be some consistently cooler temperatures. I'm not going to say cool, because right now it's looking like it's going to be slightly below average heading into next week and possibly beyond that. All this heat is being set up by a ridge in the jet stream, a building ridge, and a high pressure system. Nothing unusual, of course. When New England, if heat indexes are going to shoot above 100 in New England, it's going to happen in late July, of course. So this is the time of year that this stuff is going to happen. Speaking of stuff that is going to happen in New England this time of year, uh, we are looking at a potential severe weather outbreak on Thursday. The severe weather might just steal the weather headlines from the building intense heat. So there is a potential for a full-fledged severe weather outbreak tomorrow on Thursday. It's still potential because there is an uncertainty in the forecast. This is being set up by a wave of energy that is going to move through the Great Lakes today and tonight. The timing of when this arrives in New England will be crucial to exactly what happens as it pertains to thunderstorms in New England. Model trends have been speeding this up with potentially some storms firing up in western New England in the morning and then having severe storms redeveloping in the afternoon and into the evening. With this quicker arrival time, this could also send more clouds across all of New England, and with an increased cloud cover, that will do two things for Thursday. That would, one, potentially limit just how hot it gets on Thursday. It's going to be hot and humid, but just how hot the heat index values go on Thursday would be determined somewhat by the clouds. It could keep it a little lower. And two, more cloud cover would cap the atmosphere and limit how much the region can destabilize, which would limit the amount of severe weather that could potentially develop. This does all need to be ironed out, but right now it does appear that a severe weather outbreak is on the table with all hazards. All five major hazards are on the table. Those five major hazards are lightning, frequent lightning, large hail, damaging winds, brief tornadoes, and torrential downpours leading to flooding. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center does have the southern two-thirds of New England in the slight category, depending on just how the timing ends up working out, and that will be ironed out over the next 12 hours. We could potentially see portions of New England go up into their enhanced category. Again, that will depend on how the timing ends up getting ironed out. Biggest threat for the severe weather, as usual in New England, will be straight line wind gusts. But again, hail, tornadoes, lightning, and flooding all on the docket. Right now, the Weather Prediction Center has Vermont, western New Hampshire, and western Massachusetts in the slight category for excessive rainfall. So, as far as the timing goes, and again, this is the big uncertainty, but for the severe weather, it's looking like, mid afternoon in western areas and late afternoon to early evening in eastern areas. But again, that will need to be ironed out. I'm going to do a forecast post on this potential outbreak this evening. You will be able to see that on newenglandstormcenter.com. It should be up on the website by 8 p.m., so you can check it in there for an update on this weather. But there's a heat advisory out for Thursday for southern New England. At this point, it is looking likely that a severe thunderstorm watch will be issued some point tomorrow morning. And with that flooding threat, there could even be a flood watch also issued for at least western New England for tomorrow. So it'll be a very active weather day. We'll be watching the intense heat, we'll be watching the thunderstorms, we'll be watching the potential for localized flash flooding tomorrow. So on to the latest in the Vermont recovery efforts from their great flood of 2023. Something that happened in 2011 after Irene is going to happen again this year. The band Fish is going to play two benefit shows next month, August 25th and 26th. 100% of the profits will be donated to the 2023 Flood Recovery Fund. Governor Phil Scott is reminding everyone to report all damages, no matter how minor, as the state is still working to secure the necessary amount of funding for the flooding, as we again try to piece together exactly how much all of the damages is going to cost. FEMA, who has been on the ground for a couple of weeks now after this flood, said that personnel have conducted 6,000 home visits and 300 business visits. About 1,000 homes have been inspected for damages as of this recording. September 12th is the deadline to apply for individual FEMA assistance. FEMA will continue to conduct assessments on overall infrastructure and damage. The Secretary of Transportation has stated that 10 state roads remain partially open, so they haven't been fully repaired yet, but they are at least partially open, and 7 state roads remain closed entirely. The main issue with these 7 roads that are still closed are that temporary bridge structures need to be built for the roads so they can reopen while the permanent bridge replacements are done. There are currently 50 AOT contractors working across 13 towns to finalize road work and bridge repairs. So the planning is nearing completion, and they will begin enacting these plans very soon. The Department of Motor Vehicles office in Montpelier remains closed. If you remember last week, we said that the Montpelier City Hall had to move their operations to a temporary location in the city as the City Hall building was too damaged to use. So with all of that said, that's going to do it for this edition of the Weather Wednesday podcast here at New England Storm Center. So as always, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and you will hear from me again next Wednesday.